And we got breaking news coming out of Holy Ghost Temple Church, which is in Council Bluffs, Iowa. This occurred on Monday at around noon when an armed man with a long gun and a handgun walked into the church while people were there. Now, just like every incident that I go over, I will talk about what happened, and then I'm going to talk about what you can do to protect yourself if an incident like this were to occur while you're at church, or what you should do if you're on the safety team or just a concealed carrier, or if you're just anybody that's stuck in a similar situation. Now, all our materials designed for church safety teams and designed around keeping churches safe. But really, this channel's for everybody. If you're a concealed carrier, if you're just somebody looking to maintain a safer lifestyle, you're in the right place. Go ahead, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm almost at 100,000 followers. I'm sitting at around 95, 96,000 people right now. Push me over the top. Hit that like button. All right, now let's go back to this church. Man walks into the church with a long gun and a handgun. Apparently, he's experiencing some kind of a mental crisis. Now, there were no services, but there were about 4 people in the building when he came in. They saw him. They were able to evacuate immediately. Officers arrived on scene, established contact with that armed man, and started negotiations. Now, police established a perimeter. They shut down traffic in the area, and they advised neighbors to shelter in place. After approximately an hour of negotiation, the man surrendered to police. Now, the man was detained and taken to a local hospital for a mental health evaluation. There were no injuries. Now, let's talk about what you're going to do if a man walks into your church with a long gun and a handgun, and he's just not open carrying. He's there to do some harm. Now, the first thing you're going to need for your church and just for yourself is just good situational awareness. These people had good situational awareness. They saw him come in and they took off. Good on them. That doesn't happen all the time. A lot of people will freeze. And when you look at my active shooter videos, I can't really show them here on YouTube because the algorithm won't let me do that. I'll actually catch some strikes. But I debrief active shooter incidents, new ones, old ones. I go over them all over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. Head over there. You can go see all of them. What I've noticed about all of these active shooter incidents is that almost everybody just stays in place. They don't move. And I want to say a clear majority of the people will just hunker down. That's not the right thing to do. Make sure that you have situational awareness, that when you come into a particular location, you're looking for exits like these people probably did, and have an evacuation plan for your church. If you're on the safety team, have a plan to get everybody out. If it's just you, look at where those exits are. Look at all of the exit alternatives, including if you've got to go on stage behind the pastor. Usually behind the pastor, there's a stage entrance. Usually there's an exit out behind there that you can hit as well. There are all sorts of places you can do, but situational awareness and looking for those exits is the prime thing. Now, another big thing that you can do is keep those doors locked when services are not in session. Now, you want to ensure that all exterior doors are locked when there's no services and no events happening, and when you don't expect congregants to come, like you don't have a Bible study or something like that. But if you do have people come in for a Bible study, once they're inside and everybody's accounted for, lock the doors. You just don't want anybody coming in behind you. Now, this helps prevent unauthorized entry by people who might seek a sanctuary or pose a threat. Now, one of the things I talk about routinely is it seems like almost every week a criminal comes to the church to hide. When people are in trouble and they're running from the police, they're running from some problem, somebody's trying to kill them, it could be anything. People go to a church to find sanctuary because it's ingrained in us that that's a safe place to go to where you can find help. So if you're in mental crisis and you've got a long gun and a handgun, it makes sense to go to the church because that's where you're going to find help, and hopefully the Lord will help you. In this case, he did. Just hopefully they leave the guns behind next time. You really don't need those. You want to install a high quality video system like a 4K video system. Now, look, if there's only 4 of you in the church, you're probably not going to monitor those, but it does help identify people when they do come do bad things. The other thing is if you do have a service going on, somebody should be stationed there. You can see, your camera should be pointed towards the street, and you can see a man with a long gun coming. In fact, tomorrow I'm releasing a video on here and over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com where I review a active shooter incident that happened in New Zealand where 45 people were killed. I can't show that on YouTube, but you'll see it over on ChristianWarriorTraining.com, so you can sign up for the newsletter over there. In that case, you would have seen this man walking down the street, coming up with an AR, a shotgun, and coming to kill all these people. You could have just simply closed the doors and kept them out until the police showed up. So that 4K video system, it's super important. You also want an alarm system. Every week I remind you guys that every church needs to have an alarm system because, well, most churches don't have an alarm. And so they're going to do whatever they're going to do and nobody knows that they're in there. You want to have some kind of crisis intervention training and a crisis intervention plan, meaning like we're a church, we deal with people in mental crisis all the time. We should share that training amongst all the staff. And they don't have to have as much training as your professional crisis intervention person, but they should have enough that they can get themselves out of trouble if something happens, that you can calm somebody down. I got a decent amount of crisis intervention training as a cop. A lot of it is super simple. I will probably put up some kind of training for you guys over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com where we do free training for everybody. I'll probably come up with some kind of crisis intervention training for you, but you should have something so that you can work with these people when they come in and you can talk them down. Now, what happens if he comes in and you weren't able to leave and now he's holding you hostage? You've got a man holding you hostage with a rifle and a handgun. How are you going to be able to protect yourself? Now, look, the biggest thing is stay calm and be compliant. And that's hard for some alpha type people to do, to be compliant. But hear me out. If you can't leave and you're taken hostage, just remain calm. You'll be okay. Avoid making any sudden movements because the person is probably mentally unstable or they're taking drugs. Those are the two. I've dealt with several hostage incidents over my career on SWAT across the board, unless it was domestic. If it was like a domestic violence incident, there's some unique circumstances there. But when you're talking about just a random person taking hostages, it is usually because they're on drugs or they have mental health crisis across for the most part, right? So they don't think normally like you and I do. And so sometimes they have a voice in their head telling them to do things and to be afraid of people. So it's best just to be very careful there. So don't make any sudden movements, follow their instructions, and don't argue with them. You want to create some kind of a rapport with that person. You want to try to create some kind of connection with the individual. You want to speak in a calm and non-confrontational manner. You want to express empathy, listen actively, and you don't attempt to argue or challenge that person at all. You want to start looking at escape opportunities immediately. And if it's in the church, you should already know where your exits are already and how you're going to get out of there. So discreetly look for opportunities to escape if you can do it safely. So you want to look at exits, windows, any other possible escape routes. And if you have an opportunity to take it, take it. I can remember one incident where I was in the command post and we had cameras inside. And I was looking and I'm like, man, they could tackle this guy now. They could run right now. And nobody was doing anything. And it's very frustrating, right? If you can communicate with authorities, that's pretty important. So if possible, use a phone or some other communication device to silently alert authorities to the situation. It's amazing. I remember having an arrestee in the back of my car who was hands behind his back, and I forgot to take his phone from his back pocket. And the guy was texting pretty clearly with other people without looking at his phone. He was doing it from muscle memory. If you're that good, that's awesome. But you want to start texting either with, like some places have like a texting 911, or you can just text a friend that can relay it to the police. But whatever you can do to get that stuff out. The big thing on your alarm, if you have some kind of alarm activation that you're in trouble, like that somebody's holding you hostage, those alarm codes are awesome. If you have something like that, if you can tell the guy, hey, I got to shut the alarm off and put your trouble alarm. So that way the cops show up and then know something's going on. And big thing you don't want to avoid, or you do want to avoid heroic. So don't attempt to overpower or disarm that person unless you're certain that you can do it. If you have an opportunity to just demolish that person and make them wish they never walked in, then go do it. But if you are not capable of doing it, there are plenty of people I've come across in law enforcement where I walked up and I realized I'm going to have to take this person into custody and there's going to be a fight whether I like it or not, no matter what. And you know what? I'm not a hero. I'm going to wait till I have enough people here to help me, and I will call for help and I'll wait till they all get there and then I'll do it safely. Don't be the hero, but certainly if there is that chance that you can just destroy that person, then by all means, go do it. The last thing you want to do is just have some kind of emergency supplies in your church. You want to have a trauma kit in case somebody gets shot, communication tools if you need it, like radios or something like that. You might want to think about some non-perishable food and water as well to sustain yourself. If is an example. He comes in and you lock yourself down in a room that you can treat injuries, you can have water and kind of take care of yourself until the police come in and take care of things. So there are two other things that are super important that you can do. Hard times are coming on the church. We know that because the Bible tells us that we're going to be persecuted for our beliefs. We have seen that with the apostles in the past as well. We see that with Christians today all over the world. We've just had a good life here in America. I don't know how long that's going to last, though. So pray for our church, pray for our safety teams, pray for our fellow Christians that are being persecuted around the world. And the next most important thing you can do is remember your ABCs, always be caring.